Hey everyone, it's Steven. Today I have the 2023 Hyundai Palisade Calligraphy. This is the top trim of Hyundai's very popular 3-row mid-size SUV. First debuted back in the 2020 model year, made quite a splash, won tons of awards, and this is now the mid-cycle refresh in the 2023 model year. Gives it a new grille. This is actually the calligraphy specific grille right here, and also gives you some new interior elements like a new steering wheel. Hyundai also introduced the XRT trim, which is the new off-roading trim, which I feel like every car maker is doing these days. For example, a lot of their competitors, like the Toyota Highlander, Honda Pilot, the new Mazda CX-90 coming out, I feel like all these different brands are now coming out with off-roading models, which is kind of weird, but I feel like that's a new trend the SUV world is kind of moving towards. The 2023 Hyundai Palisade starts at a base price of about $35,000 for the base SE trim. And then, like I said before, this is the top of the line calligraphy trim. Starts at about $49,000. As tested, the model I have here comes out to a whopping $54,000, which is a lot of money. I would recommend people to stick with the SEL trim or the Limited trim. Those are kind of the middle trims that give you a lot of the goodies, but don't have the over-the-top styling of the calligraphy. Though I do love the 20-inch alloy wheels that are exclusive to the calligraphy trim, as well as this awesome, bold satin platinum grille. You also get some nice styling on the inside, like the premium Napa leather seats, and you get the ergo-motion massage seats as well on the calligraphy trim. So if you really want that over-the-top luxury, the calligraphy trim is definitely the way to go. But if you just want things like the Harman Kardon sound system, the 360 camera, and some of the safety features, the Limited or SEL trims will be a good choice. All 2023 Palisades come with a 3.8-liter direct injection V6, so no turbocharger in those, and they make about 291 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. That gives you 0 to 60 times about the mid 6-second range, which is not bad. I mean, it's uninspiring, but it will give you enough power to, pass people and get up to speed on the freeways. This is all mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission with Hyundai's H-Track all-wheel drive. That is actually a $1,900 option. The Palisade is actually standard front-wheel drive, so if you want to get the all-wheel drive H-Track system, that is going to be an extra $1,900. This gives you fuel economy numbers of 19 city, 25 highway, for a combined average of 21 miles per gallon, very average in its class. All right, let's talk about this gorgeous exterior. Probably my favorite part of the Hyundai Palisade, honestly. This is the calligraphy-specific grille here. So this one is this nice satin finish here. Looks a lot more luxurious than some of the other trims. And I also love the full LED daytime running lights and the actual headlights themselves. They have this really cool text in it that actually says full LED. With the 2023 redesign, I really like how Hyundai made this a bit more boxy, honestly. It looks more like the Mitsubishi Outlander. I feel like it looks very, very similar to the newly redesigned one, but I love that. I love the boxier look. It really does look more modern compared to other vehicles these days. Kind of actually makes it look a bit more like the Kia Telluride, its twin. The Telluride actually also got a refresh for this year, so I personally like the Palisade more. I used to like the Telluride more, but I think with the refresh, I've swapped. So let me know in the comments what you guys think, which one you think looks cooler. All right, and now we've turned on the hazard lights here. You've got the nice, cool turn signals here. I think they look really nice, really complement that nice, sleek, kind of waterfall style teardrop LED headlights that you get. Going onto the side profile, this car is huge, as you can notice. It is a large 3-row SUV. This one, you've got the 20-inch alloy wheels that are specific to the calligraphy trim. There's no special name for them, they're just called the calligraphy wheels, but I love them. Again, more spokes makes me happy. Another unique styling element of the calligraphy trim is going to be these nice chrome accents all along the body profile of this car. You've got that chrome accent at the very bottom of the vehicle. You've also got the chrome door handles, and then also the window trim as well. You have these crazy roof racks, which I think are like a $350 option. They're really tall and really large, but I guess they can be used pretty efficiently. One other thing I wanted to note about the wheel wells here, notice how these are actually a body color painted fender. This color, by the way, is called Abyss Black. Pretty descriptive, right? It is definitely very dark. I do think that the Palisade has some really cool colors out there, so I would probably stick with a different color. Honestly, even the white looks a lot better. Black is probably my last option I'd go with. I think they have a really cool green that I love. But again, the really cool part about this is that most vehicles these days, Subarus, are going towards this plastic fender right here. And I love that this is actually painted metal. That is super unique, and really I do think that makes this look a lot more luxurious. That's all about the calligraphy trim, right? How do we make this car look less like an economy vehicle, less like a Hyundai, and more like a luxurious car like a Range Rover or something like that, right? All right, going into the actual rear of this vehicle, the rear really didn't receive any changes with the 2023 facelift, so looks pretty the same as, you know, the previous model years here. This is the H-Track badge here, that is their all-wheel drive system. Otherwise, you've got Palisade nicely laid out there, the Hyundai logo, pretty typical things. I kind of wish they would hide this up here or something like that. The rear windshield wiper is kind of in your face, but I mean, it's a fine rear. I do think the tail lights look pretty cool. Those are full LEDs. They look really nice. But aside from that, there's really nothing that interesting or standoutish about the rear. You do have twin tailpipes at the very bottom right. They look fine. At least they're actually real. The tailpipes are in there actually. Going into the actual trunk here, this is probably one of the most inspiring parts of this vehicle, is the amount of space you get. 18 cubic feet of cargo space in the rear with the third row up. So you can see, even with these seats up, you have a lot of space back here, right? If you actually put these down, you get 45.8 cubic feet of cargo space. That is huge. You can pretty much carry anything you want. You do also have a nice Harman Kardon speaker cap in there, and you have one touch to put these down and up. That is super, super cool. I'll show you guys right here. It goes really easily. If it hits something, it will bounce back, but otherwise the seats do fold very easily, and I love that you can just touch of a button. So easy, so luxurious, really makes this feel like a more expensive vehicle. Now let's get behind the wheel of this 2023 Palisade Calligraphy. Before I do that, I wanted to show you guys what the key fob looks like. Typical new Hyundai key fob. You do have, of course, with this luxurious trim, you have the ability to move this car from a parking spot without actually getting in it, which is always a pretty cool, neat party trick. So going in, you've got these chrome nice accents. Of course, you have proximity keyless entry, so you can just go right in as long as the key is in your pocket. Stepping inside, pretty nice, luxurious beige that I really like for the color. I think it looks way better than the black interior. I will say though, the beige color is very hard to keep clean. Very similar to the Hyundai Sonata Limited that I reviewed last year. I'll link the review here. This interior just looks immaculate, and I love what Hyundai has done with their interiors. Okay, so push the start button back here. Start it up, you can see some interesting graphics. Not the most, I guess, highest FPS there, but it does look pretty good, at least for a vehicle like a Hyundai. Definitely don't expect some of the cool animations that you get in some of the higher end vehicles, but this looks really good, right? You've got your traditional, fully digital setup now, as you would expect from a $50,000 vehicle. This is a 12.3-inch infotainment display, touchscreen as well. And I've always loved how Hyundai and Genesis do their little like save screen here essentially. So that actually is a map of your location, and it's really cool that, like, I don't know, it just looks very subtle and nice. And then you swipe to the right and left, and you can kind of go through the different widgets you have. Home screen is basically the saving screen, and I think you can actually customize what image you see in the back depending on your profile. And it all just looks really good. So I guess, you know, we're going to talk about this first. So talking about this infotainment system, it is easy to use, it's easy to reach, and I do love that everything you need to do in terms of car customization is in setup and vehicle. I feel like some cars these days get so confusing with like where they store all these different things, you know, but here everything is easy. Heads-up display is right here, all your controls for your different clusters are here, illumination, climate, seat, lights, right? Like, they're very straightforward, and I do think the Hyundai system is probably one of the most intuitive in terms of just getting the car, using it, easy, right? Sound is so easy to find. You can customize different things. Your Harman Kardon premium sound system, of course, on this trim. And I don't know, I really like how everything is easy to find and responsive, and this is definitely one of the better infotainment systems out there right now. Moving on to the digital gauge clusters here. These actually got an overhaul in the 2023 version. Before, they were a bit lower pixels in my opinion. So, well, I guess not even my opinion, just a fact. They were definitely a bit more, I guess, sluggish. They definitely looked less nice. But now you get some better graphics. You can change your drive modes. It all looks very smooth. And yeah, just in general, like, the things here look better. So I can kind of show you guys on the steering wheel here. You can kind of click through the different things you want to look at. You have a few options on what you want to display, but I will say it's not the most configurable. You can't really change what displays in, like, you know, the bottom left, bottom right, like temperature, dates, things like that. You have your range, but I do think you have everything you need here, right? You have your fuel range right there. You can see your how much actual percentage you have there, and then you've got your tach and your speedometer. So you really have everything you need. If you need some extra things, you can see it in the heads-up display right here. So This heads-up display is really nice. I think it does a really good job showing you, this won't focus, but I think it does a good job showing you everything you need to know about, you know, the speed you're going, what song you're playing, and other driver assistance tech. I really like that it shows you your blind spots. So it'll show you these little like red arrows when you have a car in your blind spot coming up on you. It will also vibrate your steering wheel depending on what settings you have, but I really like that. It's like a nice slow vibration being like, hey, there's someone in your blind spot, so don't turn. It's only if you have your turn signal on. So Hyundai's safety tech has been very flawless this entire trip. I've had this Hyundai for about 4 days or so, and it does a really good job. Their adaptive cruise control functionality works really well. I'm getting hot, and I'm going to turn this down a little bit. I really like that these are physical controls. I'll get to that a little bit later. But yeah, Hyundai's adaptive cruise control works very well, easy to use. You can turn this on to have them use your steering wheel for you, essentially. You can kind of see in the actual digital gauge cluster there, it'll show a symbol for that. This is if you want them to actually steer for you. So you have a lot of options, right? If you just want the speed limited cruise control, also a normal car's cruise control, you can do that. You can have it steer for you, which is what Hyundai calls Highway Driving Assist, I think HDA. And they have a few different modes of this, essentially. They can have it actually switch lanes for you, which is pretty sweet. That one is basically where you get to like almost the semi-autonomous driving, essentially. But yeah, you have your distance control here. Really easy adaptive cruise control system to use. I like that it's all on the steering wheel. This is also a new steering wheel for the 2023 model year, by the way. And I like that it's not like on a weird stalk. I really realize I don't like it when they have like an extra stalk here for your adaptive cruise control functions. You'd have some nice little paddle shifters here. Don't know how much people will use those for a Hyundai Palisade. Definitely not sporty. Although I will say I would love to see a Hyundai Palisade end. That'd be super cool. And then on the left side of the steering wheel, you've got pretty generic stuff here. This is the way you can speak to your Hyundai. You've got a star. This thing you can program to a few different things, and this is just going to be your media selection for what mode of media you want to use. Skip track is this button, and volume is that button. Really easy to use. I love that when you're changing the settings here for your lights and your windshield wipers on the other side, it tells you what you're doing. That is really, really cool, and something that I just feel like cars don't get right these days, right? Like, I want to easily be able to see that I'm in auto. I feel like some cars you just have to like really guess by moving your stalk a lot, right? Kind of annoying. Otherwise, I love the two-tone look of this steering wheel. I love this new steering wheel. I think it looks way more attractive than the old one, so kudos to Hyundai for that. Let's talk a little bit about the actual interior aesthetic here, because that's probably the first thing you guys noticed when you saw this, right? Like, it's gorgeous. This beige color really complements the Abyss Black metallic on the outside, and I love the sweeping lines of the vents. I love this weird texture thing here. It's like it's like a faux wood, essentially. It just feels really nice and looks very luxurious. You've got that nice quilted pattern with the perforations on the door panels. You've got stitching everywhere. This is a nice premium perforated Nappa leather seats. You've got some nice piping here as well. It just all looks very premium, and I really like the design of this part too as well. And what really catches your eye, I think at least for me, is this premium microfiber headliner. Look at this, it's all throughout the entire cabin. This thing is just, it feels fantastic. One of those things though, like, it's a little hard to keep clean and make it look like it's not been used, but it's one of those premium things that they even put it on, you know, the actual sun reflectors and things like that, and sun visors, and it looks really nice. Okay, going to the middle here, you have your typical controls here. This is going to be your gear select. Very easy to use and very in your face, so definitely not too difficult. I love the hybrid of a digital display here and an actual physical switch, right? So I love that you can have 3 different levels of auto in case you want your wind speed to be higher, things like that. And it's just easy to use these. These are really simple to, reach over and touch this without taking your eyes off the road. You have your different drive modes. You can actually lock your differential as well if you want to go some off-roading things. And then you've got heated steering wheel and your ventilated seats, heated seats. You actually have heated and ventilated for both the first row and the second row, which is crazy. Third row passengers, which probably aren't going to be too many, at least adults, you actually get heated seats for as well, which is pretty sweet. You've got 360 camera here as well. Graphics look really good and really easy to hit this button. You can turn off your auto start-stop, hill descent control, and you've got your parking sensors. Everything is just so easy to hit. That's like probably something that, I don't know, that's probably what I am most impressed by, is just the physical buttons and how, like, this doesn't look I don't know, I feel like with some vehicles, like the old Porsche designs, it was just so, you know, clustered, and now it just looks, this looks clean. Like, I don't know, they did a great job of using the space they have. You've got 2 cup holders. These are large. One of my favorite parts of this is that you can actually hide these and have more storage for something. So if you wanted to, you could have a really large book here or something like that. And you go, whoop, whoop, and they just fly right out. I don't know, I think that's really cool. I will say one thing, as you notice, I have an actual wire here, is because we don't have wireless Apple CarPlay. That is a huge knockoff of this vehicle. I do not understand when competitors all are getting the wireless Apple CarPlay functionality. This car only has wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It has a wireless charging pad, but again, I'm not going to use a wireless charging pad if it means sacrificing, you know, my Apple CarPlay, right? And I think a lot of people are in the same boat. The last thing I want to look at in the front row before we go into the other rows is going to be this digital display rear view mirror. How cool is that? So basically you can switch between a real one, just like your actual normal rear view mirrors, or digital display. This comes in handy a lot of times, but I will say the hardest part is the fact that for a digital display like this, your eyes have to focus on it. So I think you can get used to it, and I really like it because it's very HD. You can see a lot more clearly than the actual normal rear view mirror, but it does take a little while to get used to. I also wanted to point out how cool these different textures are. Like, look at this texture. Hyundai does a really good job of this sort of stuff, right? Like, their buttons look very luxurious. I've always complimented the textures on the turnstocks and stuff like that as well. It's just a really cool, neat touch. Let's take a look at the second row of the 2023 Palisade Calligraphy. You've still got that gorgeous texture on the door panel here. Looks really, really luxurious, right? I love this perforated leather here. Again, you have the Harman Kardon speaker grille, but this one doesn't have that chrome finish, but still looks really nice. You've got nice window shades here, really easy to use. You have it for both of the sides of the car as expected. Going into the car, one thing that I think you'll notice is how quiet this car is. The sound isolation in terms of material and like the deadening and stuff like that is done really well. Like the actual car, is very quiet. Not as quiet on the freeway, but it is very quiet when you're at a standstill. Notice though, this is not one large panoramic sunroof, right? So you've got a dual panel set up. And you know, in the middle here, it looks pretty good. It kind of covers both the second and third row. So, you know, definitely not a huge knock against it, because that would be a huge pano sunroof to go across the entire vehicle. But I think, you know, visibility looks great, right? Like this cabin definitely gives an air of airiness. There's a lot of space in this cabin, let's just say that. You've got a digital display down here, which is really cool. Like I said before, you got heated and ventilated seats for the second row, which is awesome. You've got this dual captain chair setup, which looks really nice. You have this great material, again, the same design on the second row seats, right, as the front row, which is really impressive. You also have these armrests, which are pretty configurable. I really, really like these armrests. I'm a huge fan of armrests for cars in general. You have pockets here, and just everything looks great quality. I think that's the thing that really impresses me. You have an actual outlet right here, 12-volt outlet as well, and you have charging ports here too. That is super cool and a nice place to put them. And moving on to the door panel here, you do have 2 cup holders for each person in these captain's chairs. You can have 2 different beverages of different sizes too. Look, they have different cup holder sizes. So it really is very luxurious back here. I think I remember when this vehicle first came out, it like broke a record for like how many cup holders are in a vehicle or something like that, because there are a lot of them. I don't know if you can ever have too many cup holders, because I mean, you have more storage down there in the little pockets here. So like, there's just so much space. You can bring a lot of different drinks and water bottles here if you want. But yeah, otherwise, like, these seats are just great. This is in my normal seating position for me as the driver and my passenger, and you have great legroom. I mean, like, this is really, really phenomenal. These second row seats feel so luxurious. And like, I don't know, with the panoramic, well, not panoramic, with the dual pane sunroof setup here, and just how large these windows are, it really gives the cabin such a nice, luxurious, airy quality. And I think this, I mean, there's a reason why this vehicle sells like crazy for families, because it is such a good family hauler for, you know, family of 4, maybe even a family of 5. And I will say even 6 people could work pretty well here. I think 7 is where this vehicle gets a bit crowded, because you'll notice that this middle seat here isn't really a seat, and it doesn't really have a nice headrest, but you could definitely fit a small child if you needed to, and 2 full-size adults would easily fit right here. So I definitely think this third row is quite impressive. They actually made this a little larger for the refresh, and you'll notice you still have this nice texture as well. So I mean, Hyundai does a good job clearly bringing over the luxury back to these rear seats, which other vehicles don't always do, right? Some vehicles really skimp out on the third row. You've got more charging outlets. These are all USB-C, which is kind of interesting. And then you're able to lower these at a touch of a button. One touch for both lowering and raising, which is pretty neat. You'd have heated seats back here as well. Very luxurious touch. And you can lower these seats in front of you with these buttons. If you wanted to, I guess you could lower the 2 captain's chairs and then have a really long middle area. I guess there are probably some random niche purposes for that. You also have cup holders. This definitely doesn't look as luxurious, right? This obviously gets scratched up and is quite dirty, but again, this is definitely meant for smaller humans. So adults might not be the happiest back here, but you'll see that, like, you know, I can sit back here for a little while. I wouldn't want to sit here for too long, but you still have that same airy quality because of these large sunroof displays. And I mean, like, the seats themselves are still comfortable. They're just not very supportive in terms of, like, they don't have that much space, you know, for your thighs and stuff like that, but, and your knees might hit the second row seats, but like, this is something that I think most people could handle for a few minutes. I wouldn't want to be stuck here for a super long road trip, I think. But again, like, the second row, very luxurious. Third row, really, I feel like I would probably keep it down most of the time because you get insane cargo space if you keep it down. But it's also really easy to move up and down, depending on if you want to put groceries in or things like that. You've got one touch for all of that. It's just, this cabin is very seriously impressive for this price point. All right, so at this point, I hope I've convinced you guys that this car is pretty darn special in terms of its exterior and interior. But now a lot of people are going to ask, what is it like to drive? Luckily, Hyundai still knocks it out of the park here. So, I mean, I just think this vehicle, I mean, if you think about it, this vehicle made such a splash when it was released in 2020. I still remember reading so many things about this vehicle and the Telluride, and just, I mean, you see them everywhere. Like, I feel like they are by far the most popular three-row SUV out there right now in terms of affordable, family-friendly, good tech, good appearance, right? It just really checks all the boxes. The driving experience isn't going to be the most interesting thing, right? But it's just what people want who are buying a vehicle like this, right? Like, Hyundai knows its target audience with this vehicle. You get all of the safety feature tech that you want. You've got blind spot view monitors that look pretty nice. Again, the resolution just isn't that great on these. I feel like if they could increase the resolution on these would actually be really helpful. But otherwise, like, I kind of just use them to, like, I don't know, double check my work to see, like, oh, okay, nothing in my blind spots, check to actually look over my shoulder, and then I'm like, okay, blind spot view monitor also shows nothing. So that's kind of why I like the blind spot view monitors, but again, they're just really not the most useful thing. But anyways, you do have all the standard safety tech that you want: front and rear parking sensors, rear cross traffic alerts, you know, adaptive cruise control with semi-autonomous mode and things like that, and like, it all works really well. The heads-up display is great, gives you enough information, isn't too intrusive, easy to configure. It's just all such a usable, practical package. And I think adding the XRT off-roading trim this year was a very smart idea to kind of capture some of those people who want maybe a bit more unique of a vehicle, or something more like a, you know, I don't know, something a bit more special that they feel like they can really off-road in. Again, I really just don't know how many people are going to be off-roading their Hyundai Palisades. So talking more about the actual ride itself, it is nice. The ride quality of this vehicle is great. You've got some nice large tires and 20-inch wheels. Don't create as much road noise as I expected. So I think overall, the ride quality is definitely not going to disappoint people looking for a cushy vehicle. This feels like a luxury vehicle. I think the only area that gets a little weird is wind noise. I think at 70 miles per hour plus, that's kind of where you get a lot of wind noise, and I think that has a little bit to do with just how large the vehicle is. These large rear side mirrors and just the roof racks at the top also, I kind of feel like probably contribute to that a little bit. But overall, the actual quality of the fit and finish feels good and solid. Like I said, sound isolation is great. When I'm actually stopped, you don't hear anything outside. It's only when you're kind of driving at freeway speeds that you kind of feel a bit more of like, oh, okay, I see why this vehicle is, you know, not a luxury vehicle. But otherwise, the actual feeling of this car, very glidey, very floaty, kind of as you'd expect from large SUVs these days. They've gotten really good at refining the ride quality, because I mean, that's what most families care about, right? We don't want to wake up the kids in the back, things like that, right? So I mean, it's a very floaty feel. Definitely not engaging. You do have a few different drive modes. Smart is going to be that adaptive one, right? But again, like most people, I mean, I keep it in smart most of the time because it kind of allows the engine to rev a little higher if you want to accelerate onto the freeway. But otherwise, you know, most people will probably keep it in comfort. There is a sport mode. Don't know how useful that is. It gives you some cool graphics in terms of turning the digital gauge cluster a bit red. But again, this is a Palisade. Not even a Palisade N. I don't know if they'll ever create a Palisade N. Maybe a Palisade N line, maybe some sort of trim that looks a little bit more sporty. I don't know if that would even do well though, honestly. I highly doubt anyone is buying this vehicle because they want some semblance of a sporty vehicle, right? If you really want that, you're going to have to go for something more in the luxury range, maybe a BMW or something like that, right? But for the actual luxurious ride, $50,000 for this is great. Like I said, I would actually probably recommend sticking with the Limited or the SEL trim. Those are in the more like mid $40,000 price range, and I think that's more reasonable, right? Because once you get to $50,000, you can kind of start thinking maybe you could get a low trim, you know, some luxury vehicle, right? So I think like that's kind of where it gets a little bit tricky. Every person I know who's gone in this vehicle has complimented this car, right? They're like, it looks great. It's impressive. That new calligraphy grille is just, oof, chef's kiss. I feel like they did such a great job with the refresh and keeping it modern. I remember when I first saw this grille, I was like, I like the old one better, but now it's like, I love this boxy one, and like, I love that look. It just, they did so well, and the refresh wasn't really even needed, right? Like, people were already complimenting this vehicle. It was still winning tons of awards without a refresh, but Hyundai and Kia did a smart move in kind of staying ahead of the competition. Overall, if you're looking for a 3-row midsize SUV, the Palisade and Telluride have to be on your list, right? Totally fine if you don't love the styling or if you feel like something in the car is missing, but it checks every box that most families are looking for in terms of a nice vehicle. So I just think that, you know, really when it comes down to it, there are very few vehicles that give you this. But I will say the CX-90 is probably going to be your biggest competitor at some point. So I am very much looking forward to seeing what Mazda can do, because they have put out some very nice premium looking vehicles at affordable price points. So let me know in the comments what you think about the 2023 Palisade. Would you step up to the calligraphy trim, or would you stick with maybe a cheaper trim that still gives you all of that tech that you want and still that awesome exterior, but at a better price point? Let me know what you think. I personally love everything about this vehicle. I honestly find it difficult to find any flaws in this car. Might be the best vehicle I've driven in 2023 so far, honestly, in terms of the price point and the package you get. So that's all I wanted to talk through today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to check out some of my other reviews, click up here, please subscribe down here, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Bye.